Hey, good afternoon to you. 506 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. The reinvention of Kamala Harris is underway, a product that nobody wants, now being forced down the throats of the American public. Can it be done? Joining us now to discuss, from TheBlaze, the incomparable Christopher Bedford is here. Hello, Chris. Good to have you with us, sir.
Great to be here, dude.
All right, so Kamala Harris, the big thing that they're trying to do to us this past weekend. I love how they shift up gears every week to try something else to see if we'll buy this. This past weekend, they were like, "Oh, she's the campaign of joy." They're very joyful. Are you picking up a lot of joy from the Kamala Harris campaign?
Yeah, well, they're pretty happy with their poll numbers for sure, and I think that's what we're going to be seeing this week. At the DNC is a whole lot of joy, but yeah, that's what they've been doing. It's all about vibes. I mean, this morning, reading the New York Times morning newsletter, they talked about Kamala Harris's muscular patriotism was the word that they used. And they had a picture of a woman in the crowd wearing one of those internet meme shirts of Kamala Harris dressed as Captain America. And this is their example. And, of course, you have to look at the basic polling of the Democratic Party compared to the Republican Party to find the massive differences in the amount of people who think this is actually a great country versus those people who think America was never great. But there's not a lot of muscular patriotism in the Democratic Party, but this whole campaign is going off of vibes. And right now, vibes are a powerful thing in American politics. They often trump fact.
Yeah. Muscular patriotism. When I hear the New York Times herald Kamala Harris's muscular patriotism, that scares the living daylights out of me. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like a drone strike on my house. That's like, what are they even talking about? All right, so Kamala Harris, muscular, patriotic. This week for TheBlaze, you write that this is similar to something they've done for a different female Democrat politician. What did you conclude?
Well, there's a lot of echoes here to the Democrats in 2016. You've got Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton actually have a lot more in common than maybe either would like to admit. I mean, both of them have fancy titles, of course, in their past resume, but both of them really suffer, both internally and around, with appearing natural, with working with crowds, with actually being liked despite their successes in life. Likability is not particularly high. Both of them really are running on those vibes. Remember, Hillary Clinton was all about, I'm with her, and here's a picture of her holding the BlackBerry with sunglasses. And both of them really did also represent the status quo. They were representative of the ruling regime. They're representative of Hillary, of Barack Obama's legacy, Kamala Harris of the incumbent president, Joe Biden, who's going to be handing the crown to her tonight at the DNC. And both of them really, because of this kind of mechanicalness and this blatant mocking of Ellenism and the failure of the vibes to really reach past their party diehards, were unable to unite the kind of political coalition that Barack Obama had created of working-class whites and black voters and Hispanics and women and the college-educated and the environmentalists and the union people. They don't have that magnetism that Obama had, and they'll suffer for that potentially if Donald Trump is able to counter with the kind of campaign he ran in 2016.
Well, in 2016, President Trump does win by slim margins, but he wins. So I guess one of the happy notes of your comparison is it's happened before. Do you think it can happen again?
Yes. I don't think that I'm not black-pilled at all on this election. I mean, it's a hard crash for Republicans to go through from that week at the RNC after the failed assassination attempt, after the Joe Biden's, the president's infirmities, after that debate. For that week, Republicans are feeling like Democrats feel, which is everything's going our direction. Everything is going to be great. The march of history goes on. Well, that was a very foreign feeling to a lot of Republicans. And now, with Kamala Harris in there, it is back to reality. So it can be a bit of a hangover. It's a real race now. But if Donald Trump is able to do what he did in 2016, which is make it about a broader movement, make it about the economy, make it about the incumbent, kind of do what he did from his speech at Bedminster last week when he said, how bad this economy is. You know what it's like to have President Kamala Harris. Right now you have Vice President Kamala Harris.
Yes.
If he's able to do that as opposed to focus on phone calls and personal grievances, of which he has many justified personal grievances, if he's able to talk about those issues, I think he could win this campaign for certain.
Yeah, and also, like, not all of his grievances are unappealing to hear about. I mean, a lot of voters are drawn to him for the fact that they do see him as the victim of an overzealous, like, hardcore, partisan, weaponized system that's trying to destroy him. Like, they recognize that. It's the reason why throughout all of his time in New York, when he was standing outside of that courtroom, his support only grew because people definitely recognize that. But Trump has a skill that he should flex a lot more, and I think this is the point you're making, which is he's good at connecting with voters. He speaks to their needs when he's at his best, and he's really good at talking to them in person. That's the opposite of Kamala Harris. Kamala's a gaslighter. She pretends she's not even responsible for the current state of the country under the Biden-Harris administration, and she is the most socially dysfunctioned person I've ever seen in American politics. She is not good at communicating with human beings, Chris Bedford.
No, she's not at all. She makes DeSantis look like the greatest retail politician in American history. To see that ridiculous show earlier today with all the cameras in there that's sent by the campaign to get Kamala Harris and Doug and the vice president hanging out at Sheetz, kind of tossing potato chips back and forth like footballs over the aisle, that's the kind of thing that is totally fake. And you compare that with Donald Trump swinging out for a pizza from the courtroom or visiting some firefighters or going to a bodega. There's no comparison.
Yeah.
And, Kamala is so kind of disconnected on that. She didn't even, I think, remember that her administration is suing the Sheetz gas station chain right now because that gas station chain wants to perform criminal background checks on their employees. And then they're saying that's racist or something, so they're suing them. That's the level of disconnect, and she simply does not have that retail political skill.
Also, why did she get regular Doritos? Why not Cool Ranch? Doesn't that say something about her?
Since my wife has been pregnant, I have been exploring the aisles of different chip flavors at a much more larger level than ever before because the cravings are real. Yeah.
And so it's just, you're right though. The whole thing is just reeks of intense phoniness. This is why I have been and I'll continue to be grateful that Trump raised the issue of her authenticity on that stage with the Black Journalists Association. I thought it was the best. He's like, wait a second, 5 minutes ago she was saying she was Indian. Now she's saying she's black. I happen not to care. I like both of them, but can somebody ask her why she keeps saying all these different things? And everyone went crazy. The media went crazy about it. But it was Trump's ability, his unique ability, to basically force them to cover what he wants them to cover, which is Kamala's a phony.
It was old school. It's what I wrote about in The Art of the Donald. His ability to hijack a news cycle through pure outrage. His ability to make Joe and Mika come back from vacation when he was president with a big countdown timer on MSNBC so they could explain plastic surgery and getting kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. His ability to dominate that conversation, and I loved your take on that and wrote about it too at the Beltway brief, that he let the other politicians, let the normie Republicans answer the question by saying, well, she's a phony on this, she's a phony on that, she's pretending that her entire political career doesn't exist, she's disavowing the things that she championed, that she's disavowing the bills that she that she was a patron of when she was a senator, and draw it away from that. But Donald Trump got the conversation started, and he changed it from this dumb stuff about the dumb fake internet stuff about J.D. Vance into a real issue with Kamala Harris, that she's a fraud.
Yeah. And J.D. Vance, by the way, is like so much more trustworthy than Kamala Harris will ever be in terms of just being close to the levers of power. He's the right guy for the job. It's interesting. One thing I do wonder, like, should it come to pass, and I don't want to get over my skis, but I can't help but think about it. If Kamala Harris loses the election, how awesome will her rage be?
The rage will be incredible, and the civil war in the Democrat Party will be unreal. I mean, tonight what we're going to witness is Joe Biden going out as the elder statesman, not necessarily his goodbye speech, but his speech that it will be the most watched of the rest of his presidency and the rest of his life.
Isn't it kind of humiliating, though, that he's doing night one?
Well, I guess it's the kickoff, but yeah, he's going on vacation right after that. He's not interested in the latter hand, and he's kind of the whole point is he's got to get out of the way. They kicked him out. He's done.
Yeah. But I mean that's the lowest billing position you could have is night one at the convention. He's the sitting president of the United States. Under normal circumstances, you would think that he would be introducing Kamala Harris. And I raised this at the top of the program today, but it's pathetic that they're burying him on the first night and bidding him adieu. Jill Biden, I was wondering if she'd even speak. She hates Kamala. She is speaking tonight. We'll see. I'll be reading her body language to see just how grumpy she is.
That is such an excellent point. I hadn't considered that. The short billing that they're giving Biden. And they're going to laud him, and they're going to wave the flag, and they're going to have that muscular patriotism. They're going to say he was a great president. But if Kamala Harris loses, which there's a 50-60% chance that she does, then he will go down as the old man who hung on too long, the person who crashed the Democratic Party. And the bloodletting that you've seen between AIPAC and the moderate Democrats and then the more radical progressive Democrats, especially since his campaign is literally pushing wage and price controls, that civil war is going to look like just a preview of the violence that's going to come inside the Democratic Party if she loses.
So right now they're trying to project like some sort of unified face or whatever. They're doing an awful job at it, by the way. If you've watched any of the footage from the convention, both last night and today as we speak, how much is this going to blow up in their face, do you think, in the election? The fact that they've got some meaningful percentage of their party that's all in on Hamas and constantly badgering Democrats to join them.
I think that'll depend a lot on this week. I mean, to read the campaign propaganda coming out of Politico Playbook this morning, the first 10 paragraphs were this dumb little diary about getting to the DNC and being excited, followed by this story about how the Democrats are so unified. I said, well, really? Explain the 100,000 people who are estimated to be protested against them in the streets of Chicago. I was in Milwaukee. There was literally dozens of protesters. We're talking about up to 100,000 who want to make it like Chicago 1968. And if that happens, that'll kick off this supposedly great weekend of unanimity, or this week of unanimity. And then we'll see what happens, because Israel is working on their peace process. Blinken is over there right now. But Hamas has said they're going to go back to suicide bombing. Someone blew up in Tel Aviv last night. So if Israel ends up going to war with Lebanon, going to war with Iran, or expanding this, the Democrats will suffer for that greatly.
Finally, do you think it'll be possible for Kamala Harris to separate herself from the Biden-Harris record? She's attempting to these last 2 weeks in a big way, and I saw that there are some Biden officials who basically told the New York Times, no, she was involved in literally everything. Jeff Zients said the following to the New York Times. He said, quote, "When I started running the transition, the president's first directive to me was the vice president must be involved in every decision that hits his desk from start to finish." It sounds like they're wrapping their arms really tightly around her, including if they sink to the bottom together.
Yeah, they're really annoyed at the idea that she would be so disloyal. I mean, they knew that was in her. She called Joe Biden a racist on the campaign trail. I know that primaries can be mean, but It's a pretty serious insult to throw at your future boss. And that Biden is hugging her now and saying, you will continue my legacy, because everything he's looking at right now is kind of a legacy-building movement. Now, I would say that there's no way that could disassociate the vice president from the president, but you and I witnessed the complete and total gaslighting that happened after COVID, where all the policy decisions that ruined people's lives made by administrators and local bureaucrats were just blamed on some ethereal disease. We know that the media combined with government is capable of pulling this on the American people and getting away with it. So I wouldn't be surprised anymore. Yeah,
if there's one identifiable trend, is that the lies just keep getting more brazen. So they'll say anything. Chris Bedford from TheBlaze, great to have you today as always, sir. Thank you for that.
Great to be here.
Good. All right, let's go to our phones now. Phil is calling in from Fredericksburg on line 1. Hello, Phil. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince, the most beautiful thing about the Democratic National Convention is that it's the end of Joe Biden, and that he lost to Kamala Harris. He had to give her all his delegates. He had to give her all of his money that was given by his name to Kamala. It is the biggest losing moment of his political career tonight, and after it, it's all over. He is toast.
You're going to watch him bend the knee this evening
it's going to be
Queen
beautiful.
Yeah. And you know what's funny, Phil? Actually, to add to your joy on that subject, it really was Trump who defeated Biden. I mean, obviously the left is corrupt, and they're rigging this whole thing. They're like, oh, no, Kamala's the nominee. Biden's not the nominee anymore. But the reason for that, Trump destroyed that guy. They went on that debate
Very
stage,
true.
and Biden never recovered. So Trump has a lot to be proud of tonight as Joe Biden takes his loser's address to the nation.
Touche.
It's amazing. Phil, good to hear from you, brother. Nice to talk to you, as always. That's Phil in Fredericksburg. Let's get Richard in Manassas in here, line 2. Richard, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Nice talking to you again. You know, Kamala wants to distance herself from Joe Biden. It's going to be really, really hard when her platform at the DNC mentions the second term of President Joe Biden 19 times throughout their platform. Fox News reported today that it either mentions Joe Biden by name or in Joe Biden's second term. So they're not even distancing themselves from Biden. You know, this just shows that there's not an ounce of daylight between the two of them.
It's a sign of yet again of how incompetent these people are when they have power, including over their own platforms. You're right about that, because I saw our buddy Greg Price posting this on X today. 19 times, that's the count, and all throughout this platform, if you can even call it that, they do say things like, in a second Biden term, we'll do this, or in President Biden's second term, he will push Congress to do this. During President Biden's second term, Democrats will continue to do this. I know she hasn't been the force down the left's throats nominee for that long, but she's been there long enough for them to do a simple Control F in that document and remove Joe Biden's name, don't you think?
Yeah. Autocorrect is there in all the word processing programs. You know, if I could say something about Waltz too, he actually went to China the first time in 1989. What no one will report on was that before or after the Tiananmen Square massacre. Because if he went after, knowing what they've done to all those pro-America, pro-liberty, pro-freedom protesters there in Tiananmen Square, he signed up to be a stooge of the Chinese Communist Party. He may be the literal Manchurian candidate.
So he was advocating for the glories of Chinese communism well into the 90s after Tiananmen Square. So that we already know that. And additionally, Tim Walz, it was Corey, who's a great producer, who brought this to my attention. Did you know Tim Walz married his wife on the anniversary of Tiananmen Square? On the very day? Did you know that?
Yeah, he's an awesome Chinese advocate.
He loves
just
communist
like Bernie
China.
Sanders.
He's unbelievable. All right, thank you very much for that excellent call. As always, we've got coming up, Kamala Harris buys Doritos. She's even bad at that. Hey, good afternoon to you. It is now 5:35 here on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. It's crazy out here. I'm up in Maine right now doing this broadcast from actually Tucker Carlson's joint up here. As we had a big conversation today that's set to be up in the next 24 hours on X, an extensive conversation for his excellent show. And I'm super grateful I got a chance to do it, and a good chance to see Tucker again. And I think you'll enjoy it. If you enjoy Tucker and me, this is the perfect combination. This is it. You'll get to see us there. So that'll be really cool. And part of our conversation revolved around making fun of, I got to be honest, Don Lemon, who Tucker affectionately refers to as Don Lemon. And the reason it came up is we were talking about this man on the street interview that Don has been doing. He's been doing these man on the street interviews and posting them to X. I thought he was mad at Elon Musk. Why is he posting all of this stuff to Elon Musk's platform? Whatever. But as he posts these man on the street interviews, he's asking people, who do you support? And he was in Atlantic City. I do wonder if, as I play this, I wonder if he was just there on vacation and he was like, maybe I'll make some content. So here's Don Lemon asking people in New Jersey who they support.
Here in Jersey, Atlantic City. Who do you support? I'll plead the fifth.
Trump for the win.
Tell me why.
I can't really call that right now, but I just feel like she's not good for president. She's good vice, but not for the actual lead role for the country.
Does it have anything to do with being a woman?
No. No, because I feel like women, nah, you're not going to give me that.
Your money's on here.
Yeah.
Who do you want?
Trump.
Why don't you like Harris?
I love, by the way, that, like, Don Lemon, what was that? The guy didn't say anything about her being a woman. He said, you know, she's fine as vice, but I don't think she should be president of the United States. I don't. And Don Lemon says, why, because she's a woman? Well, he didn't say that. What are you assuming about him? Why are you assuming that about this guy? That he wouldn't like her because she's a woman? And he doesn't take the bait. He's like, no, I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. But Don making the assumption.
Oh, she doesn't have any experience.
She's the vice president. She's a senator.
No, she has no experience.
Well, I want Donald Trump. I just feel we need somebody that has a stronger background with the military and the world in general.
She was a prosecutor and attorney general.
Wait, what? What is that response? I just want somebody who has more experience with the military and the world in general. She was a prosecutor, says Don Lemon, an attorney general, trying to make this limp-wristed defense for her. It's not working. She's not that good.
Vice president. You're in a gambling town. Who's your money on?
I'm going to support the Democratic Party, but, I mean, Trump looks like he got it in the bag right now.
4 years ago, it was a lot better. I made a lot more money than I do now.
I know you feel that way, but that's not actually what the record shows. The economy-
Wait a second. Wait a second. This guy goes, 4 years ago, I was a lot better off financially. That's just the cold, hard truth. My bank account was in a better situation when Trump was president of the United States. And Don Lemon, to this guy's face, says, that's not true. Do you realize how absurd it is that just happened? Don Lemon has no idea what that guy's financial situation is. He says, fact check false. You are better off now than you were 4 years ago. He just met the guy like 3 seconds ago.
Years ago, it was a lot better. I made a lot more money than I do now.
I know you feel that way, but that's not actually what the record shows. The economy is actually better under Biden. No, I'm serious.
The guy's laughing.
That's what the facts show.
Okay, you know what?
No, that's not because I watched CNN. Trump or
Okay, so the guy doesn't even recognize him, that's like the sweetest part of that piece of audio. He goes, what are you, watching CNN? He says to Don Lemon, who was fired by CNN. Is this not fantastic? Aren't you isn't this great? Don should do way more of this. We need a lot more clips that sound like this. This is really fun.
That's not because I watched CNN. Trump or Harris?
Trump.
That's who's going to win.
That's who's going to win.
Who you support?
I support Trump. All the people that came to this country legally, it's not fair that they're letting all 10,000 to 15,000 people or 20,000 people here illegally. Have you seen San Diego? They're coming off the boat,
totally
off the water right here, off the ocean. Did you know Biden was flying them?
Now he's not exaggerating. That is totally true. San Diego in particular, because it's right at the very edge of what little border wall we have. But people will get on boats and they will go right around. Like, literally, you can see it. If you stand at the border, you can see where the border wall ends as it descends into the ocean. And then all you have to do is get on a boat and go around it. Now, is it choppy? Is it rough? Is it hard to do that when you've got waves crashing on the shore? Yeah, sure. But people do it all the time. They're doing it endlessly. And this guy straight up is like, we have people pouring into our country. All they do is come in right by San Diego. He's totally right about that. This might come as a surprise to Don Lemon.
Did you know Biden was flying them in? You didn't know that?
Well, I know nobody likes him, but we had good times with Donald Trump. Our economy was good. Life was good.
But you know the economy's better under Biden than Trump.
Oh, my gosh.
Well,
That's what the stats show. That's what the facts show.
Well, you know what? I don't know where they're getting their facts, but I don't think they're valid. I don't know where their facts are coming from.
Don Lemon himself is worse off under the Biden administration than he was when Trump was in office. Don Lemon doesn't have a job anymore. Don Lemon is unemployed as we speak, and he's telling these people that he's interviewing on the street they are better off now than they were when Trump was president of the United States. Don, you aren't better off now. You were canned. And also, the basics on the economic news here are that the economy is not in great shape. Prices are well above 20% higher. People are meaningfully poorer by thousands of dollars per household than they were when Trump was president of the United States. In very real terms, the cost of goods has exploded and wages have not kept pace, which is why they are so much poorer. Credit card debt is well over $1 trillion, and you have a lot of people now defaulting on that very debt, which means they're in for a world of even further hurt, in a world where they can't even make ends meet. And the unemployment numbers are kabuki theater where you have people working multiple jobs part-time, and that's juicing the numbers to make them appear artificially low, and they're not. Things are really bad. And, by the way, foreign-born workers are getting all the actual job gains. Native-born Americans, losing. Losing. Those are the numbers. How many times do I have to bring E.J. Antonio on to talk about them? He knows. He's right. And so here, Don Lemon doesn't know any of this, or maybe he does. I don't know. It's hard for me to assess. He doesn't seem like the brightest bulb, but for him to, with a straight face, a guy who was fired from his job, say, everyone's better off than they were 4 years ago. Biden's the greatest. What are you talking about? It's totally senseless. So that's Don Lemon's version of Man on the Street. Who else is doing these Man on the Streets? All of a sudden, everyone's talking to people like, hey, tell me what you think. And when they do, they hate what they have to say. Isn't that the best? Martha Raddatz over at ABC, she spoke to a black woman, a black American woman, who wants to vote for Trump, and Martha Raddatz is upset about it. And so she starts debating with the woman. I said, I couldn't convince her otherwise.
Have you decided who you want to vote for?
Honestly, no. I'm leaning towards Trump.
And why is that?
A lot of the stuff Kamala says is kind of like what Trump has said, like no taxes on tips.
Yeah.
Was something that was kind of reiterated by Trump beforehand. She's just kind of been caught up in a lot of lies.
Like what?
I think lying about her heritage was one of them.
You think she lied about her heritage?
Yeah, I believe she's just Indian. I don't think she's black.
She is always identified as black. She is half Indian.
Well, I think that's something we can definitely agree to disagree on.
And so Martha Raddatz is like, I'm going to tell you what race she is. She is always identified as, oh, really, Martha? Have you known Kamala Harris her entire life? You knew her like literally every day of her life. She has always, have you noticed? She's not the only one in the media who does this. She has always identified as, what are you talking about? And the woman she was speaking to, she's got an instinct that Martha Raddatz doesn't like. The instinct is, I can tell Kamala Harris is a phony. She can tell. The woman can tell. And so when Martha Raddatz is like, okay, give me details. What lies? Specifically, what lies? Because what Martha Raddatz was setting out to do was try and demonstrate this woman's stupid. She has no idea what she's talking about. And the woman, first of all, she correctly points out that Kamala Harris is like trying to hijack Trump positions for like the moment to be like, oh, I'm tough on the border. Oh, I'm going to do no tax on tips. You know, and on and on and on. It's a scam. It's a total scam. And then the woman brings up a version of what Trump brought up, which is like, what? Like Kamala Harris like represents herself as a completely different person before all these various crowds. She's a phony. She's like a fraud. And that woman detects it, and Martha Raddatz hates that. And so she sets out to crush her. Of course, because the role of the media is to crush the powerless on behalf of the powerful. That's the role that the American news media plays now. What about the British news media? Here's Sky News. They interviewed a group of these are black men playing basketball in Georgia, and here's what Sky News found when they talked to these gentlemen.
Who wants to talk about politics? Do you know who you're going to vote for in November?
Donald Trump.
Yeah?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because he's our best choice.
Some people don't like it, but I think he's a smart businessman. You know, someone call him an a-hole, but I think he's an excellent a-hole.
Did he say, some might call him an a-hole, but I think he's an excellent a-hole, he said? Wow, that's a superlative I never thought would be given to Trump, but there you have it.
Oh! Trump real, bro. He don't care what you think about him. He gonna speak his opinion. He gonna tell you what it is.
Who are you going to vote for?
I ain't voting for nobody.
Yeah, I ain't voting for nobody.
No, I ain't voting.
You're not going to vote at all?
No, I ain't voting.
Well, what do you think about these guys saying they're not going to vote?
They got to know their vote count.
It do matter, though.
Every vote counts. I just don't believe it both counts.
Somebody yells, every vote counts in the background.
I don't believe it.
I really don't believe in them strong enough to vote. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Do you agree? Trump again?
With Trump and who running?
Huh?
Who's running?
Trump. Don't worry about it.
And who?
And Kamala Harris, because Biden stepped aside.
Oh, Biden stepped out?
Yeah, he stepped out.
Probably Trump. Yeah, I'll probably go with Trump. I seen a lot of tax breaks, and just ultimately my company was running better when he was in office.
Well, that's tapping into something that's true. That's a policy issue right there. As people took home more of their own money under Trump. The Trump tax cuts were really meaningful, and not just there's. I know there's some criticism like, oh, too much of the Trump tax cuts went to like these rich, these companies. Well, the end result is that you pay less for the goods, too, because the more taxes they impose on these companies, the higher you pay for goods. Government tends to have a negative effect no matter where it sticks its disgusting fingers. And it's always the poorest among us who pay the highest burden, usually, and the middle class. They pay a huge burden for these decisions. So there you go. Sky News, another man on the street interview. I want more of these, by the way. I'm always a fan of get out, talk to the voters, put the clip package together and show us what they said. Over on Fox News, they interviewed a grocery store owner there who is mad about Kamala Harris, and rightfully so, Kamala Harris's price-fixing plan. Kamala Harris on Friday said that she's going to tackle price gauging, is what she said. The word is gouging. And a grocery store owner talked about how this is stupid. We don't make that much money. Like, when you think of professions that are just rolling in the dough, you don't usually think of grocery store owners Scrooge McDuck diving into their gold piles. That's not the way we usually think about this.
The lack of details. There's nothing there. I mean, you can't just throw things against the wall and expect everybody to say, oh, that's great. As a grocery store owner, we work on such low margins. It's going to affect us totally. I mean, it won't work for us at all.
No, and they're very low. I mean, I've seen some of the reports of 1%, 2%, maybe 3%. They're not that high. It's a competitive business, and a lot of grocery stores out there, you got to price your food competitively in order to reach the market. It's hardly price gouging going on. To the extent that the cost of those goods have risen, you can thank the Biden-Harris administration for that. They have. Kamala Harris especially, by being the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. Boy, they drove the price of everything up. They really did, and it's and we're all living with the horrific consequences of it now. So I hope, whether you're on a basketball court or if you're, just out there anywhere in America, a small business owner, that you have your eyes open to what the left plans on doing to you, and you've already been experiencing it. Let's not make it worse. How about that? 5:50 now. All right, well, as we're speaking, the Democrat voters outside the convention are breaching the security perimeter. They've already smashed down some of the fencing, and they're making their way towards the United Center, where the Democrats are holding their convention. Julio Rosas, who stood us up today, he has this video to share from the scene.
Whose streets are free? Whose streets are free? Whose streets are free? Whose streets are free? Whose streets are free?
All right, they're all chanting. At this point, they've already torn down the fence, and there are other videos of people trying to get through it. There are cops lined up across the street. We'll find out what happens if an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. We'll find out. There are things to learn amidst all of this. Let's go to the phone. Steve is calling in from Fairfax now, line 2. Steve, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. It's great to speak with you.
Nice to talk to you, Steve.
Yes, I have a question about the fact that they've passed all these anti-hate speech laws, and they have done nothing with them except for throw abortion protesters that were protesting outside of abortion clinics in jail, that were peacefully protesting.
Singing church
And
hymns.
yet you have dozens and dozens of violent anti-Israeli protests that they basically just let them get away with it.
Yeah, no, this is a very selective concern for the left, isn't it? This idea of hate speech. First of all, as an obvious matter, you should only be criminalized for actual crimes. Thought crimes should not be considered crimes. But so long as we're enforcing speech codes, have you noticed that they don't bother themselves with trying to enforce those speech codes and say Christians are attacked, or in this case, when Jews are attacked? Have you noticed, Steve?
Oh, God. I've heard nothing about any attacks from the anti-Israeli protesters damaging statues, throwing stuff at police.
Burning American flags.
When they arrest them, burning our flags, yes, and they just arrest them and let them loose. They do not prosecute them.
Yeah. No, it's a total disaster, Steve. And it's the reason we're witnessing so much disorder all across the country, because They're not, prosecuting people who actually break our laws. And they don't even have to forget the bad thoughts. The bad actions are enough to go after them. And that's the ground you should be on. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the call on that. Donna in Frederick is calling in. Donna, line 1. Hello, Donna.
Hi, welcome back. It's nice to hear your voice again. You and the team are doing a great show as always. And I wanted to mention something that kind of grabbed my attention. The DNC announced that Michelle Obama will be, quote, addressing, unquote, the people there. Mm-hmm. And, the terminology I've heard is that the rest of them, Hillary and Barack and so on and so forth, they're giving speeches. So for some reason, that caught my attention. Yeah. I don't know why.
So
it
you think, Donna, I feel like
nothing.
I'm reading the tea leaves a little bit. Do you think at this late stage there's still another switch in the offing, potentially?
Anything's possible. Anything is possible.
Well, if I've learned anything from especially the last decade, anything really is possible. Donna, thank you. Always good to hear your voice. And it is great to be back with you. I'll be doing this show live from Washington, D.C. tomorrow, which is where I always do it, usually. Back with you then. Have a great evening. The great one, Mark Levin, up next on WMIL.